sitting at my table last night.
Ronnie, you got a lot of exercise getting soda last night.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the guy on the other side of the table was hogging the soda.
Bob Flynn has some.
Okay, learning sponsors this morning, gentlemen. Isaac and Evan Blachor in memory of his sister, Chaya Rachel Bas Isser. Friends of Leonie Meiselman, Leah Saba Bas Chanuk Zundel. Friends of Melaskotsky, Moshe Zelig Ben Mordechai. Martin Lippman and family in memory of his wife, Malka Chana Bas Pinchas. Month of learning by Rabbi Dr. Yankee and Malki Honig in memory of his mother, Rabbanit Hensha Ita Bat Chaim Yehuda. David and Sharon Carpel, Rabbi Tzvi and Robin Carpel, in memory of David and Tzvi's father, Zeb Moshe ben Shlomo Yaakov. Carol and Josh Sanborn, in memory of her father, Yehoshua Shia ben Moshe Yehuda HaKohen. Sarah Alpert and family, in memory of her husband, Harav Tzvi Lipa ben Hillel. Josh and Carol Sanborn, in memory of his mother, Chana Bas Aryeh and his father, Shmuel Aryeh ben Baruch. Be Pizer in memory of her mother, Rezel Bat Shammai. Leo and Tova Zimmer in memory of his father, Tzvi ben Ezrael, and his mother, Yocheved Bat Yaakov Menachem Mendel. Mel and Haran Haller in memory of his mother, Fega Bas Yaakov. Be Pizer again in memory of her stepfather, Avram Michal ben Shmuel Halevi. Jill and Perry Meltzer in memory of her father, Yaakov ben Yosef. A week of learning by Charlie Gelfenstein in memory of his wife, Menucha Sarah Bat Yechiel Michal. Michael and Judith Paretsky in memory of his brother, Chaim Tzvi ben Gershom. Mark Linder in memory of his father, Chaim ben Yecheskel Elimelech. Barbara Hollander in memory of her father, Shmuel Shlomo ben Yehuda Baruch. Judy and Jack Schiff in memory of her mother, Chaya Chava Bat Menachem Mendel. Sid Paris in memory of his mother, Yudis Bas Tzvi, and his father, Chaim ben Aharon Kohen. We have today being today is the 27th of February. We do not have any single days of learning today. Neshama is having Aliyah, Crank Rafiel, Velti, Yeshua, Shem Tzaliyah, L'chol B'nai Yisrael, a good Gaben Shana. Amen. So most of yesterday's Gemara really focused on the difference in two styles of drasha, right? We saw the discussion between Ribui and Miute, okay, which was one format, and the second format, which was Klal Uprat, or Prat Uklal Uprat, okay, as the Gemara went through, right? And today's Gemara really is going to, I'm going to suggest, continue that line of discussion, okay? And in doing so, it's going to try to clarify, okay, where did Rabbi Eliezer, okay, if at times he seems to use one approach, at times he seems to use another approach. And remember yesterday, we did get into a little bit of a discussion about the fact that usually somebody had one Masorah, okay? And they usually maintain that Masorah. Okay, so that helps us better, I think, understand why the Gemara would ask this question, okay, how come, okay, he uses it, this one, how come he uses that one? And if in one case we see that he used Ribui Miute, in another, so how then, on what basis does he use, or did he use Prat Uklal Prat? Okay. So I'm suggesting that that's how the Gemara is going to approach today a little bit. Okay. So we're on the top of Lamed Hey, Amud Aleph. Okay, Kederch sheparat lach b'nazir mechatzanim v'ad zag. Okay, and that's sort of where we finished yesterday. And so to pick up, the Gemara wants to ask again. Okay, what about Rabbi Eliezer's view? Okay, how come he seems to have used one approach at one with regarding one pasuk, and when does he use the other approach? And if so, can we determine on what basis he uses that other approach that he rejected for the rabbis in our case of Nazi? Okay. All right, so let's go on. Rabbi Eliezer ben Azariah, the kamokim lahai michartzanim ba'ad zag. And as regards to the view of Rabbi Eliezer ben Azariah, all right, okay,
This says Elazar.
Elazar, right, ben Azariah, the kamokim lahai, and that when he established and interpreted the end part of the pasuk, okay, where it says michartzanim ba'ad zag. And remember, his claim was that one would not be over, one would not transgress unless one had two, okay, chartzanim and one zag, two grape skins and one grape pit or grape seed. Lomar she'eino chayav ad sheyachal shnei chartzanim v'zag. And so the Gemara then just cites that again for us to remind us what his view was when he darshaned that part of the pasuk, right? Okay, prata minale. Okay, so where does he get his additional detail? Because the rabbis, okay, used, right, the rabbis used that section to show that it was prat, uklal, uprat. Okay, and therefore that's what gave them that additional specific item to make it, to give us the result that pral, uklat, uprat, right, results in me'ein haprat. Okay, so on what basis would he get, right? Savar like Rabbi Elazar. Maybe he's opinion of the Elazar. The darish mi'ed v'riba. Okay, maybe in this case, we're going to say it's like the view of Rabbi Elazar, who says in that, regarding that particular pasuk, in that situation, he did not use prat uklal prat, but he simply used mi'it v'riba. Ve'ibayat ema. Okay, and now we'll come back with an alternative approach. Ve'ibayat ema. If you want to say kirabanan, that maybe he does at times use the approach that the rabbis use. Okay, okay, and that could apply to this example as well, right? The Isagadata, because maybe you might think the following: Kedama Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, lekatve Rachmana. Okay, that Rabbi Elazar may have been of the opinion that when the Kadosh Baruch Hu wrote this particular section, naming Michartzanim ve'adzag, Gabe Prate, that maybe in that case, it also might be a specific element. Lamai hilchata kadve batar klau. Okay, so what then is the reason that he wrote it after the general statement? Shma mina l'medaine bichlal uprat. That would come to teach us that we should darshan it according to the approach of klal uprat. Okay. Ve'ema kule lahachi huda'at. But I might say then that it all came for that purpose.
That's only
right. Okay. In other words, it would come to present. Okay. In other words, if he still is maintaining chartzanim ba'ad zag, as he explains in the Mishnah, then we can't say that he was using prat uklal uprat. We have to say no, that he was using a different means of exposition, namely simply klal uprat. That's what the Gemara is trying to clarify. Imkain, if that's the case, says the Gemara, lichtov, it should have been written. In other words, the language of the pasuk should have been such that the phrase shnei chatzanim or shnei zugim or chatzan v'zog, okay, that if you're talking about multiple and specific, then multiple has to be in the plural. And if you want it in the plural, then it should have said two chatzanim. That would have given us plural. Oh, shnei zagim, or two zagim, two seeds, or chatzan, right? Or chatzan v'zag, or one of each, which would have been each was singular, but together it's still a plural example, right? So therefore, the Gemara asks, Lamai hilchata, katav rachmana. What then was the reason that the Torah was written such, mechatzanim ba'ad zag, where it appears at the end of the pasuk and not earlier? Shma mina lemidrash be klal uprat. Maybe here it comes to teach us that in this case we could have used the exposition method of klal uprat. Okay, and that Rabbi Elazar could have used that as opposed to ribui umiute.
It's like saying, okay, have two skins and one seed, not like it says.
Ve'ikanami leid midrash be ad shiochal shnei chatzanim b'zag. And okay, and therefore we might argue, what does, if that's the case, if he's going to learn it as klal uprat, he could still, nevertheless, you learn his phrase chatzanim michatzanim b'yad zag, as he originally said also in the Mishnah, that he could learn two things from the same phrase. Okay, what happens? Rabbi Elazar, the darish mi'at v'riba, but whereas Rabbi Elazar uses the exposition of mi'at v'riba, prat uklal uprat mename. If that's the case, if he's going to prefer in our example, okay, to use ribui or miut v'rabui, where then might he have learned, and on what basis could we have a pasuk that he would use similar to Rabbeim, prat uklal uprat, okay, which they used here in our case, okay? So that's what we're on a little search now, okay? So Amar Rabbi Abahu, maybe suggests Rabbi Abahu, he learned it from the following pasuk, right? Nafkale mihakra, he learned it from this pasuk. And here we cite the pasuk, of course, first. V'chi yitain ish al re'ehu chamor oshor oseh, okay? So what happens? That's part of our pasuk. When we cite part of it, we have chamor, oshor, oseh. That's the prat. Okay. V'chol behema, the next part of the pasuk, any animal or all animals. Klal, that's the generalization. Lishmor, okay, to be protected, watched over, guarded. Okay. Chazar uprat, that comes back to be a detail. In other words, it has to be an animal that must be penned in, watched, or guarded. Okay? Therefore, what do we have? Prat uklal uprat. That is right, the specific, the general, and the specific. And when we use that exposition, what do we have? I'at hadan ela ke'ena prat. The end result is that we come up with something that is similar to the specific, right? Now, Rav is going to come back and say, hold on a second, maybe Rabbi Elazar learns it from a different pasuk, okay, and not from this particular pasuk. Rabba Amar, nafkale mihaikra. No, he may learn it from the following pasuk. Ve'im min, okay, and if from, and from is always considered deriving something in particular. So prat, that gives us a prat. Hatzon, okay, the flocks. Klal, that's a general statement. Kivasim ve'izim, okay, and now we specify, right, what kind of flocks, right? Chazaru prat, okay, we come back and give the specific. And there we have prat uklal uprat, again, that same example of exposition. Iyatadan ela ke'ein haprat. Okay, and our result again is we come back only with that's similar to the detail, the specific. Now, we're going to see there's a challenge to Rava by another one of the sages, okay, saying, how can you basically you say you think that's the pasuk he's using? Okay. Amale Rav Yehuda midiskarata, the Rabbah. And so Rav Yehuda midiskarta, okay, location, says to Rabbah, V'lelif min hadin kra. Maybe he might have learned it the following way from that pasuk. Min, okay, we said already from is clearly a designation of limitation, and therefore that's the prat. Habehema, the animal, okay. Klau, that's a generalization. Bakar v'tzon, okay, again, that comes back to tell us chazaru parat. He comes back and finishes with another specific. And what do we get then? Prat uklalu prat, iyatadan elikein haprat. Same approach. Now, Rava comes back to respond, okay, to Rav Yehuda midiskarta, right? Amarle, man, hai leka lemashma mina. The word man by itself, okay, it's not possible. Min, from that case. Min, hai leka lemashma mina. Okay, from that simple word min, it may not be possible to learn that as a prat. Right. Di'i mehatam hava amina. Why? Because I could have said the following looking at that pasuk. Habehema, okay, when our second phrase, which we said was the cloud phrase, the animals, okay, which is a very broad, okay, very broad category, right? Chaya b'chlal behema. After all, there I might say the word behema could include undomesticated animals, right? Amarle chaya bichlal behema. Is it normally Rav Yehuda is now challenging it back? Okay, do we say that an undomesticated animal is usually considered a behema? Ha, ktiv bakar v'tzon. But immediately afterwards in our pasuk, okay, it refers specifically to bakar v'tzon that are both domestic animals, and therefore that's going to clarify what we mean by behema. Okay, v'havale pratu klal. In that case, then we might have an example of a different approach, namely pratu klal. V'iyat hadan elikein haprat. And in that example, when we have pratu klal, we say we only determine it based on what's similar again to the specific. So now we ask the following question, and we come back to our really earlier argument and discussion. Uminalan dahachihu, and how do we know on what basis this comes from? Okay, Ditanya, that we learn in the following Braita. And here's the Braita citing the pasuk. V'natata hakesef b'chol asher ta'ava nafshecha. Klal. That becomes our general principle. Babakar ubatzon ubayayin ubashechad. The pasuk continued with a list of specific items, and therefore that's our prat. So now we've had klal uprat, and now we go on to finish the pasuk. Ubechol asher tish'alcha nafshecha. All that you might desire, and we say chazar uklal. So now we have what? Klal, uprat, uklal. And when we look at klal, uprat, uklal, or we look at prat, uklal, uprat, the end result is basically the very same thing, okay? So the implication of the Gemara is, if I can prove to you what klal, uprat, uklal is, and the basis for that, it works also exactly for prat, uklal, uprat. Okay, that's where the Gemara is at.
Talking about Meiser Sheni, only use the money for.
Right. Okay. So what happens? All right. So therefore, the Gemara continues. klal uprat uklal, okay? General, specific, and general. Iyat hadan ela ke'ein haprat. You determine it based on what is closest to the specific. And we saw that that was going to be the end result, again, of what prat uklal uprat was, right? And so the Gemara goes on. Map haprat mefurash, the same way the specific is explicit. Pri mi pri v'gidulei karka, that in our case, we're talking about fruit that comes from fruit and something that grows from the ground, okay? Afkol pri mi pri v'gidulei karka. So likewise, it's going to apply to other examples of fruit and growing from the ground. Okay? Now, michti, since we said that, klal upratu klal, we have that exposition method, ke'ein prata dainina. Something similar to the specific is what we can determine and logically deduce. Klala batra mayahani. So what then does the second klal that comes at the end, what does it provide for us? What's its benefit? Ahani laosofe kol dedame la. It comes to add all that which is similar to the prat that we recited earlier. Okay? V'tu, and furthermore, what about our example of prat and klal prat? All right. What about that? Here's the
What is the last prat there?
okay. How does that come in? Ke'ein haprat dainina. There, okay, we use the end specific, the end detail to make our logical determination and exposition. Prata batra mayahani, the later or the second detail. What does it then come? How does it add? Ilav prata bitra. Why? Because if it were not for this additional latter detail, hava amina, I would say, ne'ese klal mosifa laprat. I would have said that the generalization there, in other words, were it only prat uklal, the klal then comes to add on to and expand what is given in the detail. Okay? That's why it says mosifa laprat. Umichte, since tarin klale uprate, tarin parte uklala. Okay, since we have, says the Gemara, two examples. We have one example. Let me phrase it this way: we have two klals in one prat, in klal uprat uklal, and then we have two specifics and one klal in prat uklal uprat. Okay, ke'ein prata daiminan. Therefore, what we determine is what is similar to the specific element. In that case, my ika bene ubene. So we can ask the question then: what then might be the difference between them?
Learning it either way.
Ika, there is some, right? Deilu tartin klale uprata, that in a case where we have two generalizations and one detail, ika prata the damele, if we have another detail, okay, that is similar to it, afilu bechad sad marbinan, even if it has only one common characteristic, we're going to say we would include it in tre prate uklala, when we have the format of prat uklal uprat, says the Gemara. Ika prata dedame mishnet stadim marbinan. If there, in that case, the factor, the detail has two common characteristics, then we're going to include it. Okay, bechad, but only with a single common characteristic. Bechad sad lo marbinan. in that case, we would not include it.
So I agree.
Yes, Mel.
Yes, I mean, on the pre-hood eggs. So everyone understands, like, well, you know, you got the apples, the oranges, everyone knows it's pre-egg. But what about a banana? Which is also a pre-eggs.
No, it's
Is
not.
saying
It's
borrowed
not.
pre-Adam. Wait a second,
Wherever agree.
what they're saying a borrowed pre-Adam on it.
Because it's
the
not an
stem
eight.
is set. Will you please keep quiet?
Wherever
already?
agree.
Because the stem is pointing down to Adama, okay? So you're making a Hadama on a pre or eights, technically. And it's, how do you work that in terms of,
Okay.
of
The simple approach is that a banana grows on a plant, but not on a tree.
I don't know about that.
Yes,
Well,
yes, that's what it's called, okay? It
Rabbi,
grows on a plant,
eights has to be a perennial.
okay,
Bananas are an annual.
okay,
The branch never.
okay. But basically, whether we go, however criteria we determine, okay? That one is a perennial, one isn't, okay, but it clearly, bananas are grown on what's considered a plant, and it's not considered a tree. And therefore, that's the reason that a banana is Vore Priadam. Okay? No, that was not the way I was taught.
I was always.
If you look at a banana plant, it dies down to the ground every year and then regrows. Whereas a tree stays a tree. Well,
Right.
you're
No, you don't, if after they harvest of the bananas, okay, it's not gonna reproduce another bunch of bananas. The tree is, the plant is dead at that point. Okay, okay. All right, let's finish up. Michdei prat uklav. Since we have prat and klav, ne'esek klav, mosif al haprat. When we only have, instead of klal uprat uklav, or prat uklal uprat, when we only have two aspects of the exposition, namely prat uklav, says our Gemara, ne'esek klav, then the generalization, mosif al prat, comes to add on the detail. Okay? V'it rabe kol mile. And therefore it's going to include, I would include a number of additional things. Mi'et v'riba nami. And in the case of mi'et v'riba, we have the same approach. We have something that's specific, followed by something that enlarges in that case. Now, riba hakol v'idrabe kol mile. Okay, do I say it includes all, and therefore I include all things? My ikabain mi'et v'riba v'pratu klal. So again, now we're comparing two different styles of exposition. What then, asks the Gemara, is the difference between the exposition method of mi'et v'riba versus the exposition method of prat uklal? So the Gemara attempts to give us a suggested answer. Ika de ilu parat v'klal marbina. Okay. There is a situation where, were we to use prat uklal, the specific followed by the generalization, we would include. And in our earlier case that we were learning, in that case, afilu alin v'lu lavin, then even the leaves and the shoots, okay, or the whatever you call it there, right? All right, would be included. Umi'et v'riba, and in that particular case, okay, were we to have darshaned it by miut v'riba, a specific and generalization, lulavim, okay, those shoots, okay, would be included, okay, okay, yes, alin, but the leaves though, the leaves not. Yeah, that's where we're going to stop. Okay, we're going to pick up tomorrow. Okay, because it's really a new Indian.
Right, and it's also very short.
Of course. I don't know if I would say it's very short. It's 11 and Vav. That's still enough.
You know, there's a book, Eats, Shoots, and Leaves.
There's a book
Yeah, it's a book on English grammar.
on English grammar.
Correct.
Yeah,
Okay, somebody goes to a restaurant, orders food,
yeah.
but instead of paying, he shoots the cashier. So he eats, shoots, and leaves. Okay, but a bear
Yeah.
eats,